India is on the rise. It's set to become the world's fourth largest economy this year.
But these economic gains have created a rift. While India's south is surging, the north is lagging behind. Unity in diversity, it's a phrase used widely to describe India, a nation of 1.4 billion bound together through dozens of languages, faiths, and cultures. But without its southern states, India's economy would resemble that of a lower middle-income country like Bangladesh or Cambodia, large but with far fewer engines of growth. India's north-south economic divide is more than just a gap. It's a widening fault line reshaping governance, society and politics. And its human cost is impossible to ignore in the regions that continue to fall behind, such as in its poorest state, Bihar.
बिहार में तो हर एक आदमी के घर में मुश्किल है। सब दिन खेती में तो खेती में कुछ रखा हुआ है नहीं।
In this episode, we unpack the complex forces fueling this divide and explore what it means for India's future.
Economically, it is just more and higher inequality. India will look, essentially two parts will look very different.
And we ask, can India close the gap before it becomes a crisis? That's all coming up on Business Beyond.
The widening economic gap between India's northern and southern states is more than just numbers. It's a warning sign with real stakes for the nation's future.
The five southern states, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Kerala, Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, account for less than 20% of India's population but contribute nearly 31% to the national GDP. A share projected to rise to 35% over the next 5 years, according to Confederation of Indian Industries. Most of India's electronics exports come from these states, which are also home to nearly half of the country's tech unicorns, startups valued at $1 billion or more. In short, it's the South that's powering India's economy. India's North and South are worlds apart. The six largest northern states have nearly 500 million people, twice the South's population, but lag far behind on multiple matrices. Northern Indian states tend to be more agriculture-driven. Key industries include dairy and food processing. When we look at key indicators like health, education and economic opportunity, the differences between North and South are stark.
Let's bring the gap to life with a simple snapshot.
Two babies, one born in Bihar in the north, the state with the lowest per capita income, the other in Tamil Nadu in the south, home to India's second biggest economy by overall output. Statistically, a baby is more likely to be born in the north, where population fertility rates are higher. It starts life with a 1 in 3 chance of growing up in poverty. In Tamil Nadu, that risk drops to just 1 in 9. A child born in the south has much better chance of surviving their first year thanks to significantly lower infant mortality rates, and the mother is far less likely to face life-threatening complications during childbirth. The baby is also more likely to get access to healthcare in Tamil Nadu.
All this adds up to longer life expectancy, higher school attendance and more graduates in the south. Young adults who finish schooling are more likely to work in offices than on farms.
Unlike the south, northern states have struggled to draw investment or build strong industrial hubs. Nitish Mishra is the Minister of Industries in northern state Bihar.
We have started late and I admit this because we didn't have the infrastructure and we are not able to provide infrastructure. How we can think any investor to come and put in money?
But while private sector investment has been weak, the northern states are the main recipient of government money. That's because government support is calculated based on population and fiscal capacity gap. Some of the few matrices where the north trumps the south. An imbalance that is fueling frustrations in the south. Palanivel Thiagarajan is the Minister of Information Technology and Digital Services in Tamil Nadu.
The gross transfer or net transfer is climbing dramatically, and yet the economic outcomes, the human development outcomes, the social development outcomes keep on widening.
This is Bihar. Here we meet Devendra Rai in Ghospur village of Vaishali district. He is a farmer and the head of a multi-generational household. Like most families in the state, they depend on farming and informal jobs. He only owns a small piece of land, just a quarter of a hectare, like most farmers in Bihar. Over generations, land has been split into smaller plots as it's passed down.
कम पड़ेगा से गृहस्थी बढ़ाते थे.
More than half of Bihar's workforce depends on agriculture, but with small land holdings and outdated farming methods, it remains a gamble. Devendra's son Vicky Rai has inherited a plot with just 5 mango trees, far too little to generate any meaningful income.
मेरी समय आते आते मैम 10 कट्टा बचे हुए हैं. इसी के लपेट में थोड़ा आम का पेड़ है, थोड़ा में सब्जी रोपते हैं, थोड़ा 2-4 कट्ठा में गेहूं धान लगाते हैं. बस खेती में कुछ नहीं है. मेहनत कीजिए, रौदा में जाइए, आदमी किसी का हार्ट अटैक हो जा रहा है रौदा में.
Bihar has a high migration rate in India, with nearly half of its working men living and working in other parts of the country.
सब दोस्त वगैरह सब बात चला गया बाहर. जब मेरा बिहार में पैसा मिलेगा अच्छा खासा, बिहार में फैक्ट्री भी आ जाएगा, तो कहला बिहार के आदमी जाएगा दिल्ली, बॉम्बे, मुंबई. कोई आदमी सोचता है ना कि अपना फैमिली छोड़ के अपना बन बाहर जाए. किसी नहीं सोचता है. वो बेरोजगारी में जा रहा है ना.
Every evening at this railway station in Patna, the bustling heart of Bihar's capital, young men in groups board long-distance trains that promise new opportunities and brighter futures beyond their hometowns. Gaurav Kumar is on his way to Chennai, where he works in a plastic factory, a tough journey he endures for his family's sake.
जो ट्रेन ले रहे हैं आप, ये कितना समय में पहुंचा देते हैं?
ये लेता 3 दिन.
3 दिन आपको लगता है पहुंचने में?
अच्छा. पेमेंट मिलता है 14,000 रुपया. 12 घंटे ड्यूटी लेता है. खाना देता है 3 टाइम. उसमें टाइम से खाना नहीं मिलता है.
Migrants like him help drive the nation's economy. But experts say this internal migration exacerbates uneven growth. Vidya Mahambare is a professor of economics at the Great Lakes Institute of Management.
The underlying fact remains that you cannot move millions of people from one part of the country to other parts. That is simply not possible because no one can absorb that much labor.
Another reason for Bihar's low development, it is difficult to do business here.
Poor infrastructure, bureaucratic hurdles and poor law and order discourage investors. In the industrial hub of Muzaffarpur in Bihar, Prakash Kumar operates a factory that produces industrial rubber gloves, but he's barely managing to break even.
बिहार के अंदर जो प्राइवेट इन्वेस्टमेंट है उसकी बहुत ही स्कार्सिटी है. बैक ऑफ द माइंड रहता है लोगों के पास कि यार यहाँ पे फिर पैसे कैसे हम रिकवर करेंगे. जो छोटी इंडस्ट्रीज है उनको फेलियर रेट बहुत ही ज़्यादा है.
Without credit, factories struggle to invest in machinery, scale operations or weather economic shocks.
मैं अपना 5 साल गंवाया हूँ केवल छोटे इन्वेस्टरों से बात करके. मेरे केस में तो मैंने आज तक मेरे को सब्सिडी गवर्नमेंट से नहीं मिला, तो मेरे लिए एक प्रॉब्लम रहा. बहुत सारा लेटर लिखा है मैंने सचिवों को. हर बार मुझे ये रिजेक्ट करके बोला जाता है कि आपके पास SIP भी नहीं है. समस्याएं हैं जैसे सड़क बनना, यहाँ पे पूरे इंडस्ट्रियल एरिया में कोई भी जो है सो प्राइवेट यूरिनल नहीं है, वाटर सप्लाई नहीं है.
The ease of doing business is also poor.
For any new entrepreneur to set up a business, you required several licenses. In some states, single license window licensing is not there, so you have to visit different government departments at different time. So this escalates the cost for the businessman and uncertainty.
Bihar is not the only northern state facing such struggles. The term BIMARU, an acronym referring to 4 northern states and meaning sickly, has long been used to describe regions marked by low economic growth and development.
So why haven't northern states moved ahead? The answers are complicated but crucial to understand. One reason for the North's slower growth is historical neglect. Bihar, once famous for the ancient Nalanda University, experienced a long decline over the centuries. Feudalism and the rigid caste system strictly defined people's roles. Upper castes owned the land, while lower castes and Dalits at the bottom of the hierarchy were trapped in bonded labor or tenancy. This deep inequality made poverty pass down through generations.
During British rule, the region's plight deepened further as the colonial powers prioritized resource extraction over development, investing little in education, infrastructure or welfare.
After independence, economic policies favored other areas, leaving the north largely agrarian.
Policies during 1950s, and that too particularly the freight equalization, because the southern part of Bihar at that time was very rich in the natural resources, and all the states developed at that time for whatever reasons. Government of India had a policy that any state who's going to procure or transport raw materials from Bihar, their transportation cost was subsidized. This led to the industrialization or maybe development of different states. Major natural resources came from the southern part of Bihar at that time. This policy, I think, hit Bihar drastically, and I think it was one of the main reasons for Bihar's backwardness.
Poor investment in education, infrastructure and governance further held back progress.
In 20 years, Bihar saw 11 chief ministers. So there was no chief minister who was given a full tenure to work. And stability of government is very important. And if you'll come into the 90s, then you will say that when the Indian economy started opening up, the states took advantage of the policy of liberalization. Even Bihar missed that opportunity.
Bihar's slowdown in the 1990s and early 2000s is often linked to a period known as the Jungle Raj, marked by weak law and order, widespread corruption and stalled development. Bihar stands out as the only state in India with a negative growth rate over a decade. While the northern states don't hold much of country's economic might, they have enormous political power.
Politically, these northern states have a lot of influence because of their large populations. 4 of the biggest states are currently ruled by Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party, the BJP, or its allies. Together, they send most of the members to India's parliament.
This numerical strength allows them to push through legislation, often overriding resistance from other regions and parties.
We are in Chennai, the capital of Tamil Nadu, a state known as an economic powerhouse. Often referred to as the Detroit of India, Chennai is a hub for the automotive, IT and manufacturing sectors.
Here we meet Mohammad Usman. He is one of the many migrants who came to the south from Bihar. Now he owns a bag factory.
तो फैक्ट्री में ही मतलब काम किए, वहीं सो गए, उसी में सोने का रूम अलग कर दिए. इस तरीके से हम लोग मतलब जो है काम करते थे. शुरू से ही मुझे जुनून था मतलब कुछ करने का, कि जब मैं घर से निकला और काम शुरू किया था तभी हमारे माइंड में आ रहा था कि हमको कैसे भी करके खुद का शुरू करना है, खुद का करना है. फिर 2010 में हम कंपनी शुरू कर दिए थे. उस टाइम वो छोटा सा हमारा फैक्ट्री था, 2 मशीन 3 मशीन करके ऐसे धीरे धीरे करते करते अभी हमारे पास 10-15 मशीन का सेटअप है. अभी हमारा जो सेटअप है महीने का 4 से 5 हज़ार बैग हम हर महीने बना लेते हैं. अभी मतलब शुरू का एक मान लीजिए कि 6-7 साल तो बहुत तकलीफ से गुजारा है हम चेन्नई में. नई जगह है, यहाँ पे कुछ पता नहीं है यहाँ के बारे में. तमिल भी उतना अच्छा से नहीं आता था, पैसा भी नहीं था. सुबह 6 बजे ट्यूशन पढ़ते थे मैं तमिल में और इंग्लिश भी सीखता था मैं.
And he's not the only one. Over the past decade, hundreds of migrant workers have made the leap from laborers to entrepreneurs.
यहाँ पे सब कुछ सेटिंग है पहले से, काफ़ी डेवलप हो चुका है साउथ का पूरा स्टेट जो है. इसके लिए वहाँ से इधर आते हैं तो हमको सब कुछ यहाँ पे सुविधा मिल रहा है. लॉजिस्टिक का पूरा फैसिलिटी है. आज माल डालिए पूरे तमिलनाडु में, कल माल डिलीवरी मिल जाएगा आपको. ऑर्डर भी मतलब मिलता है, बैठे बैठे कहीं जाने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. यही चीज़ वहाँ पे करने के लिए हमको बहुत इन्वेस्टमेंट का ज़रूरत पड़ेगा और बहुत बड़ा सेटअप करना पड़ेगा.
In July, various media reported that Tamil Nadu state ranks second in per capita income in the country.
So they have a heavy emphasis on manufacturing, which traditionally it was even in the colonial period. There was textiles, and the railways got built because you have to connect the interior parts to the port. So Madras was developed as a port. So it had a very good industrial base at the start itself, when India got independence, textiles. Then they built on it in terms of other manufacturing like automobiles. Now they are into electronics.
Together with Tamil Nadu, the southern states are often called Southern Tigers for their rapid, dynamic growth.
The region attracts investment.
Tamil Nadu has gone from being number 4 in electronic exports of the states in India to number 1 in less than 2-3 years. The bulk of that improvement has come because Apple has greatly increased its iPhone production in India and mostly in Tamil Nadu relative to scaling back in China.
Tamil Nadu is not only exemplary in its traditional industries, but it also has thriving new sectors. Maria Janita, a first-generation entrepreneur, launched her company Goodness Farms along with her husband. She supplies organic products to health-conscious urban Indians.
University had this department Center for Entrepreneurship Development. So over there we had enrolled, we had incubation facilities as well. We had a lot of workshops and conferences like how we can break the barriers and move forward and come. Even the government, they had a lot of startup funds kind of related, to help the entrepreneurs to develop to next level.
So how did the southern Indian states get ahead?
Southern cities like Chennai, Bangalore and Hyderabad developed earlier as British administrative, military and trading centres. They gave them a head start in building infrastructure and industries.
Southern states began to surge economically by the 1980s.
And they never looked back. There's no single reason for this shift. Rather, it was a mix of factors that shaped their growth trajectory.
They had stable governments, consistent focus on development and early social reforms in education, caste and land rights. There was a high priority placed on education. Tamil Nadu was the first state to launch free lunches for government school students in 1950s, sparking a surge in enrollments. Today, the state leads India in enrollment for higher education.
Now I'll tell you the second experiment in that. 2 years or 3 years ago, when our government came to power, the Chief Minister introduced, and in my constituency, the pilot scheme kicked off, free breakfast for elementary school children. What it has done, it has increased the attendance rates in these schools by 90%. Like, I'm not saying the kid was not coming to school, is now coming. I'm saying the odds that the kid comes to school every day gone up dramatically. The odds that they're actually paying attention gone up dramatically. The odds that is, the fact that it has freed up the mothers.
Today, quite a few Indian CEOs of big global tech companies come from the southern states. Southern states are widely projected to continue outpacing the rest of India in economic growth.
Now let's look at why this existing divide is deepening.
Southern states often complain about unfair resource allocation by the central government under India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Although the South's higher prosperity means they pay more taxes per capita, they receive a smaller share of central tax transfers, which are largely population-based.
What southern states are saying is they have been contributing, first of all, for so many years. Now their population is also aging. They need much more resources to put into, for the old age, retirement funds, pensions, and healthcare system needs to be built. So all these other demands are coming up from the southern states. They are also saying we are creating a lot of employment for the northern, migrants. So they don't think now it is any longer fair.
Complicating the situation is that major controversy is brewing in southern India over delimitation, the redrawing of electoral boundaries based on population.
Southern leaders fear that due to slower population growth, their states may lose parliamentary seats to more populous northern states after delimitation.
If you say you're going to do strict delimitation based on population, you're going to end up in a situation where these southern states are going to lose a significant amount of representation in Delhi.
States like Tamil Nadu, which reduced population growth through health and education efforts, say they are being punished for good governance, while high population growth northern states are rewarded. In March, several southern parties protested, calling delimitation a penalty for successful family planning. but the official stance from the north is different. More people should mean more say in national affairs.
The population which we have and our contribution in nation's GDP, this is an area of a concern, and this shows our strength also, that having such a huge population and what we are contributing in nation's development, this is a high time.
Cultural tensions run deep too, with southern states resisting what they see as northern domination, especially the BJP's push to promote Hindi as India's sole official link language.
The problem with this homogenization agenda is that it is doomed to fail. In the best case, it will lower everybody down to the lowest common denominator.
The growing north-south rift makes India's mantra, unity in diversity, increasingly difficult.
For example, how do you write the same education policy for a state like Tamil Nadu, where the average education is high school graduate and around 50% of children go to tertiary education after leaving high school, and the graduation rate in high school is like 90% or so, and a Bihar, where the average education is elementary school dropout, where less than 25% of children go for tertiary education, and where the school graduating class is probably less than 50%. Is it possible to have a common education policy? Clearly not.
So what does the growing rift between North and South mean for India as a country?
The stark contrast between North and South could stall national unity and policy making.
Policy paralysis in India often arises when states oppose central reforms that they feel threaten their interests. For example, southern states like Tamil Nadu and Kerala have felt disadvantaged by a new centralized tax regime on goods and services called GST. Worried about losing control and income to the central government, they demanded changes and compensation before letting the reform pass. Kerala government says they are facing revenue loss due to GST collection by the central government.
So already there was a question debated quite extensively in the Constituent Assembly, whether India should be a confederation, where there should be a federation of southern states and a federation of northern states, and India should be the confederation of these two. But it was thought at the time that there is no history of democratic governance in this place, and this would be too complicated.
Ultimately, managing regional disparities is vital for India's future as a confident global economic power. At the beginning of this episode, we asked, can India close its north-south divide before it becomes a crisis? The answer depends a lot on who you ask.
Abhishek Kumar, a young entrepreneur in the north, is hopeful. He runs a first-of-its-kind company in Bihar that assembles robots and drones, an uncommon venture in this area. He could not make it to the premier engineering colleges in India and instead of migration, chose to start his venture in his home state.
जो कंपनी को अकेला शुरुआत किया था, आज 83 एम्प्लॉय हमारे ऑल ओवर इंडिया कंपनी में काम कर रहे हैं। 17 लोकेशन पे काम कर रहे हैं लोग इंडिया में। 50 से ज़्यादा स्कूल में वर्क कर रहे हैं लोग। डिफेंस के लिए हम लोग ड्रोन बनाए हैं लोग, जो कि बहुत ही जल्द हम लोग लॉन्च करने वाले हैं लोग। सुसाइड ड्रोन जो होता है, कामाकाजी ड्रोन, जिस कंपनी का शुरुआत मैंने 10-11 हज़ार से किया था, इस फाइनेंशियल ईयर में मैंने इसको 17 करोड़ तक लेकर गया टर्नओवर।
The Bihar government offered him office space at its incubation center and the equivalent of 10,000 euros in capital through a startup fund scheme.
The future of India is going to be determined by solving the problem of the poorer Hindi belt states. It is a black and white fact. Right? You can take a horse to water, you cannot make it drink. I cannot force an investor to set up a factory in a place where there is neither the right workforce nor the immediate consumption demand for the products of that factory, right?
Northern states say the South should see India as one country, not as separate parts.
Personally, I am not going into this north-south divide. We are Indians, we are a Bharati, and it's a complete effort for everyone that we should work for the prosperity of India. Because India prospers, everyone will prosper.
Back in Bihar, examples like Abhishek show what steps in the right direction can look like, empowering the North's large workforce through education and fostering a strong business environment.
ऐसे कि आप गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया को देखिए कि अगर गुजरात जाता है तो क्या अनाउंस करता है, बुलेट ट्रेन चलेगा, सी पोर्ट से जोड़ेंगे, ये करेंगे, वो करेंगे, इंडस्ट्री लगाएंगे, क्या करेंगे। बिहार आते हैं तो क्या है, 5 किलो अनाज देंगे। मतलब कि हम लोगों को अनाज में सीमित, और यहाँ का लोग भी वही है कि मतलब होता नहीं है कि लगता है क्या कि वाह
मिल रहा है ना, पेट तो भर ही जा रहा है। ये चीज़ आप वहाँ नहीं कर सकते हैं क्योंकि रीज़न है कि वहाँ के लोग एजुकेटेड हैं और काफ़ी एजुकेटेड हैं।
That's all for now. If you liked what you saw, make sure to check out one of our other episodes in the Business Beyond playlist. Until next time, thanks for watching.